Good morning. It's another week, thank God, and hopefully our heat wave, certainly in New York City, may dissipate by Tuesday. That's great news for me because even going out for a half hour yesterday morning at about 10:30 meant that I had to recover for about an hour. So I pity everyone out west, and I am thankful to finally tune in on PBS and see the news from out west. So not only did I read it in The Guardian, but I saw the news on the Colorado River. And I've posted to my Twitter feed, my WordPress feed, the voice of Joyce, all of the amazing, awesome, horrifying photographs from 2000 to 2022 of the diminishing Colorado River. That river supports 40 million people. 28 states are affected by the heat. States that produce our crops don't know how many crops they're going to have this year. The crops are dying from the heat and from lack of water. They don't know how long the water will hold out. Shakespeare said in Midsummer's Night's Dream, "Lord, what fools we mortals be." And I gotta concur, we are. There's enough blame to go around. In 1977, there was a press memo. Doesn't mean it came from the press, no siree. It came from a man known as Frank Press, who sent a letter to the Executive Office of the President, Office of Science and Technology Policy, Washington, D.C., dated July 7th, 1977. Jimmy Carter looked at the press memorandum. Jimmy Carter read the words, "Fossil fuel combustion creates excess CO2 in the atmosphere, and by the year 2000, global warming would be extreme." And he didn't know if we would be able to stop the warming at that point. He said, "Press, this is not new news, but what is new is that every scientist concurs." And this was 1977. That we would be in dire circumstances by the year 2000 to 2022. And here we are, folks. He wanted to plan ahead. He said, you don't have to decrease the fossil fuels now in the short term, but let's plan. Let's plan for the year 2000 now. Let's plan ahead. But hey, power and control, corporate profits, that's the thing that motivates everyone. And it did, and it has, and it is still. When I read again in The Guardian this week, for the last 50 years, the fossil fuel industry has taken in a profit of $2.8 billion a day. That's profit, folks. And in addition to that profit, they've taken in $16 billion a day in subsidies. The United States pays the fossil fuel industry about $1 trillion. They've made the fossil fuel industry on profit alone, 54 trillion. So you bet they've been looking at that cash and funding the politicians and funding the school boards and funding social media. Social media, when it came onto the scene, was a bullhorn for the oil industry. All they had to do was shift the winds of reality a little bit and magnify their voice, and lo and behold, people denied the existence of climate warming. I know what denial is like. I did it when I was suffering in pain for many, many years. And I guess I thought I wasn't denying reality also. But I was. No more. Because now I know if I want to live a long life, I can't afford to be in denial anymore. So you better believe as soon as I feel a pain or something's amiss, I go immediately to the doctor. Because I'm not taking any chances. So, what's my advice, everyone? There's a lot of blame to go around. The answer has been in front of us for 50 years. We, the people, are equally to blame. We vote for parties whether or not they put up candidates to save our lives. It's not just guns. It's not just women's reproductive life. It is also our very lives, the guarantee of clean water and clean air. Because without clean water and clean air, we don't have life at all. So as far as I'm concerned, climate mitigation, starting now, is the right thing to do. And it shouldn't be the same way we got into this mess. We got into this mess over an increase of 50 to 100 years. Think about it. We didn't put in infrastructure for trains and clean energy. Why? Because the fossil fuel industry was against it. We didn't put in the magnetic speed trains that my friend was developing in the early 70s, and we gave it to Europe and the rest of the world. Why? Probably didn't run on fossil fuels. It didn't. It ran on magnets. And imagine if we had continued on developing magnetic fields, how much closer we would have been to fusion technology. But that's water under the bridge. You can't solve problems the same way you got into problems, Einstein once said. You got to use a different method. And the method now is we can't drag our feet. We dragged our feet for 50 years that we know of. Actually, it's over 100. But firmly, conclusively agreed upon by every scientist by the 70s. We knew fossil fuel combustion causes global warming. And now we're seeing the results. So we got to save ourselves. We used to be a breadbasket for the rest of the world and ourselves as well. We can be. There are heat pumps we can use. Probably none of you even heard of a heat pump. It's not that expensive if you're installing it in a single room. I know I did it in the Berkshires for about $1,500. It could cost $10,000 to run a heat pump for an entire house. However, there should be tax credits for something that's as real and as welcoming and as non-destructive to the environment as that. Just like we gave tax credits for driving a Hummer a $75,000 vehicle that very few used. Who needed a Hummer or an SUV, but we encouraged it with tax credits? Well, we can encourage electric cars with tax credits too, and bring down the cost of the average electric car so that it's not $66,000 or $56,000 a year. If we could do it for cars, we can do it for electric. And everyone's worried about the infrastructure for charging cars. Well, I have a simple methodology. Use our gas stations. Just revamp them. Revamp them so that you can take out the batteries or take out the cells that are depleted and put in a new battery. Why waste time charging when you can do it in a couple of minutes, 5-10 minutes along the road? If we can get 400 miles to a normal tank of gas now, and we could have gotten it before also when I was still driving around 2018, I imagine we can do a hell of a lot better. This way we're not putting all of our existing infrastructure out of work and out of play, but we're modernizing it to accept the new vehicles. All those roads in California that were planned for railroads, they're cars on those roads. They were originally supposed to be railroads. And then I heard something very interesting about those vaping devices. I really was never interested in cigarettes because it killed both my parents. So I wasn't keen on looking into vaping either. But it turns out in Great Britain, when they collected all of those cigarettes that are used for vaping, there's lithium in them. Enough lithium to power electricity for thousands of homes. So we have devices and resources at our disposal. All we have to do is say we need them now. And all we have to do as a people, because I'm a Republican as the Roman Empire defined it. I'm for people, involved citizenry, informed citizenry. We probably need more investigative reporters right now talking about the issues that are really important to all of us. And I don't know anything that's more important than saving our lives. I'm going to be inside until the heat wave breaks. I'm fortunate. I have air conditioning. I worry about everyone in the UK and the EU that's suffering today and out west. My friends in West Virginia just bought a kiddie pool. For me, that brought back fond memories because I had one of those. They bought a 10-foot by 4-foot one to put on their patio. We had it that it was like 10 foot in diameter, and I remember we used to jump into it on hot summer days. Certainly not like days of today. So I'm glad that my friends have a place that they can at least relax in and stay hydrated. But I worry about everyone else, and I worry about what's going to happen when the water dries up in the Colorado or out west, and how are we going to get food? This is not something that deserves a back burner, and I don't see both parties coming together on a real climate change bill. Too much money and power uncurbed is bad for democracy. And we know it's been bad for democracy by having too much power on the social network platforms because they're not giving us the news. But look who's coding for them. Engineers, mathematicians, not folks that are really empathetic in their own rights. They're transporting their biases onto us. And that too is controlling our world. So we can do a lot, folks, but we have to say, how do we want to live? Do we want clean air and clean water? Who's going to give it to us as an elected official and make it happen? Because we can't afford another 50 years. We won't be here. Take care, everyone. I'm optimistic. You'll vote to see change in America because we can do it when we put our minds to it. We have the necessary tools at hand. We've got solar, we've got wind, we've got water pumps. We can utilize all of these things. And we don't necessarily need lithium because Ford is also looking at graphene and graphite for their batteries. Kudos to them. So take care. Have a blessed day. And I hope everyone survives the heat and thinks how we can survive for the rest of our lives and thrive as well. God's blessings. Bye now.